Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news. So, look, here's the deal. Sometimes a bit of news warrants a full video. There's often a story behind the headline, a broader narrative, or an opportunity to bring in, history, politics, philosophy, some, big thing, right? But other times, well, it's just an interesting story to talk about. That's really it. And it does not warrant a full 10 to 15 minute video. So from time to time, we're going to do something like this, more of a roundup video. I'm sure someday I'll come up with a name for whatever this is. But for now, let's talk about the biggest boy on the planet, Todd Howard. Well, not Todd, but Fallout 76, because it's back in the news, and well, it's back for the most Bethesda of all reasons. They managed to release a patch that undid the actions of their previous patches. I mean, it's such a cell phone that, there must be an award we can give these guys. But really, though, it is the ongoing saga of Bethesda being, let's be honest, a tad incompetent at doing this kind of thing. And really, I guess, hey, they're used to modders fixing their games, so running a live service is new to them. Being real though, this patch managed to reintroduce a number of bugs, with some of them being extremely problematic. Remember the item duping? Well, that's actually back, and that's even, sparking off some real money trading through eBay. Remember the absurdly heavy bobby pins? They're back as well. So far, it does seem like this most recent balance patch is essentially based off an older build of the game. Now, how this happened to me is, it's just a bit baffling, really. I have no idea how Gamebryo works, but based on my experience developing in Unity, it would take a major oversight to let a change like that slip through the cracks. Now, Bethesda PR have said that they are aware of the problem and that the developers do know, but really this is it's a problem that end users should not have to face. Now, what's worse is that users are also reporting that the Bethesda forum reps are beginning to shut down threads. Now, whether that is true or not, the narrative that it is happening, that is something that's caught on, and that will cause further damage to Bethesda Softworks' public relations. So really, it is a messy situation. For the most part, I would like to go back to the phrase, don't attribute to malice what is explained by incompetence. Their constant silly mistakes do actually just reek of a lack of competence. It doesn't seem like an evil 4D chess plan to go and break your game. And that's in line with how they don't have experience running a live service. Now look, I love many of their games, especially Oblivion, but being real, you'd always play those games with the community fix mods. So really, it's a challenging position. Personally, I think this might be a mixture of maybe the publisher wanting it out a little bit quicker, and then the studio just not having the systems or the experience to deal with the running of a live service. And I mean, 76, it is a live service. And The Last World just does prove that they were not ready. Community perception is an extremely interesting thing. We got to the point where a random leather jacket was being ruthlessly attacked with maximum energy. Bethesda have perhaps unwittingly created an environment where every single action is going to be massively scrutinized, and unfortunately for them, they are a bit sloppy, so there are a lot of slip-ups to scrutinize. 76 does actually have the potential to be an interesting game, but it seems like they released an MVP, i.e. a minimum viable product. Could it grow to be Rust for Fallout fans? Yes, but it is a long way off. I really do hope that they learn from their mistakes and eventually get there. At the end of the day, it would be great to have this game being in a great state. But right now, stuff's not really ideal. And it's funny, just as I finished writing that segment, I look at the news and it turns out 76 is being bundled with used PS4 controllers for free in Germany. A bit absurd, and it's the kind of thing where normally people wouldn't really care about that, but because of the ongoing narrative of 76, that's going to really get a lot of attention. So there you go, that is the latest update from 76. A little bit messy. Next, though, we have some extremely interesting news. We've got the saga of Ubisoft's science fiction game. Yeah, I know, a bit crazy. So, a while back in Watch Dogs 2, there was a mission where you would infiltrate and hack fake Ubisoft, which is a really cool idea. Now, the devs thought it would be really fun if you'd hack fake Ubisoft, but you'd actually end up stealing a trailer for an actual in-development Ubisoft game. A, it's a really cool idea. B, it's pretty genius viral marketing. Here's the thing though, it's actually bloody hard to make video games. The failure rates of projects are quite high indeed. And it doesn't really seem like that to us as consumers because of survivor bias. We don't really hear about most of the things that fail, but it really is like that. So this game, named Pioneer, is a science fiction title that has went through a number of different iterations, but is, we think, still in active development. Now, its original trailer really was quite beautiful, but unfortunately we saw a wave of tweets recently, such as "Rip Pioneer" from Ubisoft creative director Alex Hutchinson. And then that tweet was then corroborated by a former Ubisoft, now Naughty Dog animator, Jonathan Cooper. Many thought that this pretty much meant the project was dead. Well, since then, incredibly well-connected man Jason Schreier has heard from people about this project. And you know what's funny? Every time I bring up Jason, I get comments about how he's a corporate shill and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny because he typically breaks news that companies kind of don't want to get out there, especially getting ahead of companies' planned PR and kind of spoiling things in some ways. And I mean, even just from my time at industry parties, the guy is actually sort of talked about. The suits don't particularly love him, let's just say. So yeah, tweets or not, he does actually provide solidly sourced news. Now, according to people familiar to the matter who he has talked with, Pioneer very much still is in development, but that old Pioneer is quite dead. With the quote being that Pioneer's undead half-brother is here. So Pioneer started off life in 2013 and was originally supposed to be a non-violent space exploration game that was by a small team that was directed by Assassin's Creed 3's Alex Hutchinson. Now, the development of this game kind of started and stopped over the following years, but basically it seems like it was a pretty innovative, mold-breaking project that would have been hard to bottle into a releasable product, and that probably led to its development not going in a firm direction. So basically this game was being toyed with, and that meant that when the Watch Dogs team wanted a trailer for players to steal from fake Ubisoft in their game, well, Pioneer seemed like a very natural choice. So what happened to it? Well, according to Jason's article and the sources, tensions began to arise between Alex and other Ubisoft staff that resulted in him being removed from the project and then the project being rebooted under new leadership. Now, from then, it seems to have been a strange backburner project with an uncertain fate, but what is interesting is that Jason's sources claim that it has been rebooted again and is now very different, using the Rainbow Six version of Ubisoft's Anvil engine. So it's been reportedly transformed from being a non-violent space exploration game to being a combat-focused co-op alien shooter that has its basis in some of the old features of Pioneer. So what do I think about this? Well, I think that Rainbow Six Siege is a truly beautiful game. Now, I get that most people watching this because of the other channel are MMO players, but trust me, as far as FPS goes, Siege is one of the most tactically deep, challenging, beautiful games out there, and it's a hell of an industry success story, managing to save itself from the fires of a very rocky launch to now being one of the most popular core games out there. In my view, it is one of the best shooters ever made. So as for this new game, well, I mean, loving Trek, I would have loved to have seen its previous iterations, but as for this new combat one, well, I think that is a bit less novel, it's a bit less creative, but based on its technical underpinnings being from Rainbow Six Siege, I'm definitely quite interested. Now that said, being co-op PvE, I would worry about the longevity as compared to Siege. Now, it does seem like this is a game that still does have an uncertain fate. It doesn't seem like it's absolutely confirmed as a thing. We just know the development has been rebooted. So whether it appears or not, we don't really know. But it's definitely an interesting story. And I do hope that something comes out there. Because at the end of the day, I mean, its art style looked really cool. The color palette looked pretty cool. And hey, a Rainbow Six engine using, shooter, I think that could be pretty fun. Next, we have a story that I really missed out on with my prior coverage. So it's the story of Metroid. Basically, the current version of the new game got rebooted, and in announcing that reboot, those at Nintendo showed true leadership. There really is something that's worth paying attention to. They put a man on camera, and they had him be frank and honest about the state of the project, telling viewers that they were not happy with its quality, and that therefore it was being rebooted by Retro Studios. And this perhaps shows a bit of a weakness in Nintendo's more recent move to try to outsource some of their stuff to satellite studios, but overall, it was a very, very refreshing thing to see in an industry that is often really quite obtuse. Now look, Nintendo are far from perfect, they make mistakes from time to time, but this really is the ideal way to announce the reboot of a game. In the past, they've acted differently to American publishers, I would suppose. I mean, just look at what happened to with their late leader, Iwata, whenever they were facing financial difficulties. He took a pay cut. This is something that he did multiple times. Back in 2011, when the 3DS was performing poorly, he took a 50% pay cut. And then in 2014, he took a similar pay cut because of the performance of the Wii U. Now, contrast this to Activision's recent situation with the $15 million sign-on bonus. Now, of course, most of that was actually tied up in stock, so not money that would actually go towards anything, but still, in principle. Back then, he showed real leadership in the face of adversity, and I think that absolutely was a virtuous thing. Well, while the recent Metroid news does not warrant such action from, say, the Nintendo CEO, it is refreshing to see the honesty, and I think that, combined with Nintendo generally shipping high-quality products, it really does endear them to consumers, and given how the likes of EA and Bethesda just get utterly hammered for doing just about anything these days, it really does show the importance of having good customer relations and showing respect. Part of me does wonder if there's some sort of difference between American corporate culture and that of other countries. I mean, I'm pretty wary to paint with a broad brush there, so I'll leave that determination to those who are a bit more informed. But it certainly is interesting, and overall, I think that with Fallout 76, if Todd Howard had have done a video like what we saw there, it would have went down a lot better. So I think that just a lot of the publishers right now, they should really take notes from Nintendo. And then I suppose while we're talking about Nintendo, holy crap, their sales figures have been staggering. Both Smash and the Switch have set records, with the Switch now outpacing the Wii. And they really just are on the top of their game, which, you know what, is lovely to see, because that has been driven by having a novel product and quality games that respect their customers. Okay, I mean, there's some bad stuff like the artificial scarcity that they, do with the retro consoles, but overall, they're actually getting a lot of market success because they're making good stuff, and people want the good stuff. And that really is a nice thing to see. And then there are actually some other rumors about the next version of the Switch. Basically, that it's going to be cut down, that it's not going to ship with a dock, it's going to be targeting a lower price point. And yeah, I mean, I suppose they'll probably, I'd assume they'd have both SKUs being out there, because it seems like what these leaks are talking about is just a Switch that is more competing with the 3DS in terms of like a smaller feature sets, and entirely designed for portability, not really having the docking situation going on. So that definitely is interesting. I think we do need to wait to see more solid data on that. But yeah, certainly it's interesting to see how they develop the Switch given its tremendous success in the market. And then even speaking from an indie perspective, of course, we haven't published anything yet, but a lot of my friends have, other companies around here. And just in general, it's interesting to see how well the Switch performs for indie games. So as somebody who's in the indie game space, it really is exciting to see the Switch do well, and it absolutely is a great success story for the industry. So that's it for this news roundup. Let me know what you think about the format. I am working on an intro and outro. I'd like all that stuff to exist, but I mean, with this channel, we pretty much decided, let's put content first, and we'll figure out the other stuff later. And now that the channel seems to be going well, it probably is time to start trying to figure out the other stuff. Anyway, thank you so much for your support in this channel. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.